Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan Newple here, Knup Sports Show, episode 168. Man, we're making it up to nearly 170 episodes of this awesome show. Really appreciate the support and viewership and everything, the comments we get after these shows. It's been an amazing ride. Today, we have a little different of a guest. We have a special guest that's going to be not in the sports betting space, not in the gaming space that we typically bring on, but I think you may recognize his face, and I know you'll recognize the brand once I bring him back on here. I'm excited to hear what he has going on, doing some great stuff in the NIL space. Let's bring on Austin Pomerantz of the Players Trunk to the show. Austin, how are you?
Doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm doing amazing here in Orlando, Florida. Where do you reside at?
Long Island, New York.
Oh, very nice. So up in the Northeast. Well, let's get the elephant out of the room here. I don't know if anybody has seen your face or just recently you guys made an appearance on Shark Tank. I mean, congrats on that first of all. But before we dive into you and kind of everything you got going on, just tell me about that experience. Just as a person walking into the tank. I mean, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, growing up, I watched the show every weekend with my family, even in my high school business class. Like, we always loved when our teacher put it on. So it was a dream come true just to even, the doors open up, you walk right out, you're standing on that carpet. It was surreal. Like, my heart was definitely racing the whole time.
Yeah.
But, it was nice to feel like a local celebrity for a few days there.
That's very cool. Is their presence just larger than life? I mean, is that how you feel in front of them? All staring at you. I'm assuming some level of intimidation, but I'm assuming they're just larger than life, right?
100%. And even just like all the cameras, the lights beaming down on you, I'm like trying not to sweat the whole time. But it was awesome.
Well, cool. Well, I had to start there because I think that's just so cool, and not very many people in this world can say they've been on Shark Tank. But Austin, first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself. Before we get into the Players Trunk, I want to hear a little bit about you, maybe where you went to school and kind of some of the experiences you've had leading up to what you're doing now.
For sure. So I graduated University of Michigan. I was a sport management major back last May. And I was a student manager for all 4 years for the basketball team. And that's kind of really how it started. As a team manager, you're pretty much in the gym 24/7 with these athletes, helping them out with workouts. And I was fortunate enough to form close relationships with Charles Matthews and Xavier Simpson. So pretty much the second Charles was done, he turned to me and my college roommate, Jason, who's one of the other founders. My brother, Hunter, was at Syracuse, so a similar thing. But he pretty much said, raid my locker, take whatever you guys want out. So I do have a Charles Matthews practice jersey and a nice pair of Michigan slides. But after that, help me sell it. And we did that on his Instagram page, Twitter. And the whole point was to take the hassle out of it for our friends. But we knew there had to be a more efficient way. And that's sort of when peak pandemic came around. We were sort of sitting at home, weren't sure about jobs, internships, stuff like that. And fast forward today, and we were just on Shark Tank, a week or two ago. So it's been a crazy ride.
That is a crazy ride and crazy story. I want to hear all about kind of how it came about. But first of all, let's just give us the 10,000-foot view of what the Players Trunk is.
Yeah, so the Players Trunk is a platform that allows college athletes. At first, it was former athletes only sell like their team issued and game worn apparel. So, game worn jerseys, helmets, cleats, any of those items, practice jerseys. But it's sort of transformed. The gear was still a huge part of the business. But we've also incorporated signed memorabilia. So whether it's like signed 8x10 photos, mini footballs, mini helmets, and then now signed trading cards. So now it's like almost a pre-rookie card. It's a lot of these college athletes like first ever trading cards. So a really unique collectible, as you can see right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of how we've transformed over the past, 18 months.
That's interesting to me. The timeline of this all is interesting to me, and I want to hear a little bit more about this because I mean the whole NIL thing wasn't really even a thing up until I don't know when that actually happened. It couldn't have been 18 months ago. So
yep, it was last July.
Did you guys actually start this before that? Before that was a thing?
Exactly. We didn't really even have NIL in mind when we started the company. It sort of just fell into our laps. It was something we were obviously preparing for. But then once it did happen, it was just such a natural progression for our business. Like, it was so seamless to add in, like I mentioned, the trading cards or even customized merchandise. So, for example, like Buddy Boeheim, his nickname is Buddy Bucket. So we've helped him released that. Hunter Dickinson, another popular player at Michigan, Big Dickinson Energy. So just like funny play on words there that I think the fans really gravitate towards.
Sure, that's amazing. So how's it going? I mean, how's the app, or not app, but how's the site treating you? How's the viewership, and is there sales? I mean, are you guys doing a good job of getting the word out there?
100%. I think that's been the greatest thing is just the word of mouth on both the
Mm.
athlete side, but then also the customer side. So, for example, when we started out, a lot of the times we would have to do the outreach to bring athletes on board. But now it's sort of like the roles have reversed, and it's like you help the star point guard at Duke sell their stuff, and the second after, the centers reaching out to us. And I
Mhm.
think vice versa, even with customers, with the marketing, like they pretty much are finding us, which is a beautiful thing. And I know you mentioned sales like 100%, and also Shark Tank, I'm sure, helped with the visibility with that. But I definitely think the brand is getting out there more and more, which is great to see.
Sure, everybody I think always thinks, "Oh, man, after Shark Tank, they're gonna have this spike." Is that what you saw? Did you see a massive spike after that, that exposure you got on the show?
It was definitely funny. Like I was on the back end just seeing the visitors. Like it definitely increases right when the
Yeah.
episode airs. So it definitely has a pretty large effect.
The Shark Tank effect, I think they call it or whatever. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's cool. Let's talk a little bit about getting athletes, right? I mean, I think you said now it kind of starts to trickle down and people start coming into you. But let's talk a little bit about how that's going because I'm assuming all athletes, right? I mean, if people don't understand what this NIL, is, they're now allowed to make money on their name, image, and likeness. So all of these athletes are looking for ways to monetize themselves. But how do they connect with you? I mean, are you guys like out there trying to outreach to athletes, or is it just kind of hope they find you? What are you guys doing in that space?
So yeah, I think a lot of it comes from our previous relationships. So whether it's former teammates, players, we also two of our founders were former athletes, like I mentioned, Charles Matthews and Xavier Simpson. So they've been instrumental as far as opening doors for us, whether that's with coaching staffs, administrations, anything like that. We also do have partnerships with Influencer and Open Doors. So they're
Cool.
sort of two of the leaders in NIL compliance, where they work hand in hand with the schools. It's almost imagine like I'm trying to think, pretty much like job postings for athletes in a way. So
Yeah.
we'll have our opportunity right for them where the athlete can click, and then they're sort of funneled straight to us. So that's pretty much how the athletes find out about us.
Now is you guys seem to be pretty heavily just into the college market with the college athletes, but is there thought or are you already doing stuff with professional athletes and people in the professional space?
Yeah, we've definitely done some work in the professional space. I think our niche has been in the collegiate space,
Sure.
but I still think there's tremendous opportunity with the professional athletes, even if it's, let's say, they don't necessarily need to sell their game worn gear for a few $1,000s, but if it's like a charity component where they're donating it to a cause that's near and dear to their heart, which we've done.
Yeah.
We've worked with like Larry Nance Jr. and Andre Drummond both to auction sneakers off and then donate the proceeds to charity. So I think it's a really cool angle that we can provide.
That's cool. That's cool. We got a lot of business people watching this. Tell me a little bit about the business dynamic of signing an athlete to your platform. I mean, is there a contract in place? Are they exclusive with you, or is it as simple as like, hey, we want to help you, and it's kind of this unofficial type deal with them? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, there is sort of like a standard contract that they sign, just highlighting like percentages, how it all works, but it's not really exclusive. Like we've
Yeah,
always been for the athlete. We don't want to restrict them from
yeah,
any opportunities.
great.
For us, it's just listen. Let's help you make a ton of money. Let's help you build your brand, capitalize
Sure.
while you're playing at school.
Yep.
So that's been the biggest thing for us, and I think athletes really like that, and especially like we're pretty young guys. Like we can relate to them. We were just in college about a year or two ago. Like it hasn't been that long. So again, it's not exclusive, but we want the athletes to make the most money possible.
That's what I love about you guys' story. All young kids, I'll call you, but
Yeah.
youngsters out of college that are just grinding, hustling, trying to find that niche and that platform. It seems like you've done it here. Let's talk a little bit about Shark Tank again, and I want to get your opinion on because you guys got an offer, right? You got an offer. You kind of had some back and forth going on, but then at the end of the day, you ended up declining an offer from what was it, Kevin Hart and
And Mark Cuban, yeah.
correct. And so reflecting on that a little bit, are you still good and comfortable with where that ended, or you kind of second guessing that? I'm curious.
No, it's definitely a good question. I'm not really second guessing it at all. Going into it, like we knew,
Yeah.
I think everyone thought going into it like we would get an offer from Mark Cuban, and of course, it seems like a match, a
Yeah,
perfect match.
sure.
But this is our baby, and for 30% equity in the company, it was just too much for us to give up. So I
Sure.
don't necessarily have regrets about any of it, to be honest. But again, it was a dream come true. Life, like I'll have fun fact for the rest of my life just being on Shark Tank, but I don't have any regrets about not taking the deal.
The Shark Tank couch watchers always think they know best, right? Because I'm sure you've had this said a million times. Why didn't you take the deal? You should have taken the deal. But like, it's easier said than done when it's your baby, it's your business. You kind of have a line in the sand of where you want to be.
Exactly.
It's not really close to that. Yeah, sure, I would love to work with these people, but like, oh, I'm sure it's easier said than done. It's easy for me to say, dude, you should have taken the deal. And for you
Trust
guys,
me, I was getting that from
yeah,
a few of my friends right when they were watching the show. My phone was blowing up with some text messages, but it's exactly what you said. It was just too much at the end of the day, and we had to stay firm.
yeah, yeah. So does it end right there, or I mean, are you guys anticipating a possibility where maybe you can circle back around with some of those guys? Maybe Mark again in the future once you guys get more traction. I don't know how that works. I mean, are you guys still in contact with the Sharks, or is it just
No, not really. It's sort of just once you're out, you're pretty much,
yeah,
yeah, you're not in communication. But again, I don't necessarily know if doors are closed.
yeah?
I'm not a big believer in that. We never know. Maybe they do circle back years down the road, but we'll take it as it comes.
So where are you guys heading? Where are you guys heading in the future? What's the future look like for you guys? I mean, is it just continue to sign more, high level athletes and continue to help the athletes? Really it, or what's any big plans in the future for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's 100% about continuing to onboard new athletes. Even on the merchandise side, like we do have licenses with about 10 major universities, so you can actually use the school
Mm,
marks on merchandise designs. And
very
then
cool.
what I touched on a little earlier, like the trading cards, we think that's a tremendous
Yeah.
growth opportunity. We've done it for a few months now, but this will be like the first full college football season
Mm,
because last year we released it pretty much around the bowl game schedule. So it was like a little bit later in the season.
yeah.
But now, you have that full season going into it. And we do have a bunch of athletes signed up. We just released with Tyler Van Dyke,
Mm,
potential Heisman candidate, top
cool.
10
Yeah.
pick, I think for sure next year. So we do have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline in the next even 3 to 6 weeks.
That's amazing. What's you guys' stance on NFTs? I mean, are you guys doing anything in the NFT space? Because it seems like this would be a decent fit, trying to tie NFTs into some of this. Are you guys looking at that as a possible future expansion?
Yeah, I think we're definitely looking at it. It's come up a bunch, but we haven't done anything thus far. But I think in the future, for sure, we'll definitely get into the NFT space. I'm not sure what that looks like right now. Like we're still trying to figure out the best strategy to
Yeah.
do it, but I definitely think it could be a possibility.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems to get a lot of buzz, right? I mean, that's the buzz of the
100%.
last 12 months is NFTs. And so
Yeah,
interesting to see how this would play into that with those relationships and selling, things around them. So I definitely am I'll keep my eye on what you guys are doing there for sure.
for sure.
Um, I know only got a few more minutes with you, Austin. I know you're a busy guy, got to get out there and business develop, but
Appreciate it.
but what let me ask you this. So business people watching this, what is one thing that you guys need help with? What's one thing that maybe the audience is watching, and not an ask of the audience, but maybe just something you're looking for help with, or you guys are in need of? What's one thing that you can think of off the top of your head?
I mean, not something that we need, but just even like future products they would like to see, or if
Mm,
anything's missing, like just how you mentioned with the NFTs, if there's any suggestions as far as like future products, because that was one of the reasons we got into trading cards was a lot of people were even messaging us like, hey, the trading card industry boomed during COVID. Like we think that's a great opportunity for you guys if you're able to do it. And like sure enough, a few months later, we're cranking out trading cards for a bunch of the top athletes. We've had a few first round picks in the NFL draft even do
really
trading cards with us. So anything along those lines, like our emails are open.
cool.
Reach out to us on Instagram, Twitter. Like we'll read it all.
Yeah, how much social are you guys doing? Because I'm assuming social is probably a pretty hot area for you guys to get some buyer acquisitions, right, and
Yeah.
get people to like understand you guys. How much are you doing in that space?
Yeah. So I mean, Instagram is I would say our biggest mover just as far as like even the follower count. I think we're approaching 20,000 if we're not there
Congrats.
already. Yeah, thank you. So that's been a big one. Twitter is probably our second one, about like 6,000. But we pretty much Each week we highlight like what we're releasing as far as like the gear side of things. So, stay tuned for like Brad Davison's trunk or whoever the player is, just to keep all of the fans and customers, like, I guess, give them fair notice. But social media is definitely huge for us, and even the athletes promoting it too as well. There's just such a targeted audience. Like, you couldn't even have paid marketing that's so specific to their following, because ultimately that's who's going to drive the purchases, is the
Sure.
people that love these players.
Sure. Well, cool. Well, Austin, I'll let you go here, but where would people find information or be able to buy some of this? Just at theplayerstrunk.com on the website? Is that the best place to send people?
Exactly, playerstrunk.com, and just at the Players Trunk for Instagram, Twitter. We're on Facebook as well. So those are pretty much the main channels that you can find us.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes so people don't have to remember them. We'll blast those out as well. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, had questions for you personally, are you available via email or LinkedIn, or what are you on?
Yeah, LinkedIn for sure. Just feel free to always send me an inbox, and I'll definitely get back to you.
At some point, right through all the busyness, I know I understand how man, owning and running a business gets crazy. So I really give you guys props for what you're doing and just putting a dent in this space. Before I go, what do you see in the I guess in the competition space here? So are there competitors? I'm sure there are doing similar things to you. And how do you feel about competitors? Do you embrace them, or are you kind of like, how do you feel
I think
about
I think you have to embrace it. Like, I've been an athlete my whole life, so I'm used to competition. I think it brings out the best in all of us. Like, at the end of the day, that's going to push us to work even harder,
that?
to try and create new product offerings, be unique in the space. But I don't even think, as far as, of course, with merchandise, there's tons of companies that can produce T-shirts and hoodies, 100%. But as far as like the gear side, so like the team issued and game worn apparel, we have been the first mover
Yeah.
in the space. And then, of course, with trading cards, there's some major players, but I think our specialty is almost in the limited runs,
Yeah.
where like the quantities they're smaller for sure, but I think that increases the collectability aspect
Sure.
of it. So I think that's where we come in with a unique angle. But again, we welcome competition. Like, I think we thrive off that.
I love that answer. That is the answer of an athlete, of the athlete mentality of like, yeah, competition, bring it on, let's go. And that's why I think entrepreneurs, I think athletes, ex-athletes, make great entrepreneurs as well. So
Exactly. There's so many crossovers between sports and then also running a business.
100%. All right, Austin. Any last words for the audience before I let you go? Anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to make sure you said?
I think we covered most of it. Again, though, thanks so much for having me on. This was really great.
No, I appreciate you giving us some time. So that was Austin Pomerantz of the Players Trunk. Austin, really appreciate your time. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. That was Austin Pomerantz, The Players Trunk, theplayerstrunk.com. Make sure you go out there, check them out on social, grab some collectibles, some memorabilia. We'll put all these links in the show notes so you can go out and check it all out. I love the NIL space. I love that college athletes are now able to monetize themselves. I think it was a long time coming. And so I love that these guys are really making things happen in that space and seeing somebody. I feel like I just talked to a celebrity. I mean, Austin was on Shark Tank. Wow. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So amazing to have him on. I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, I'm Ryan Newpel at Noop out on the social channels. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.